All right, we're back. Another Modified Rides podcast. Today I have someone that's been in the automotive aftermarket and photography and actually the whole aftermarket industry for a while. Today I have Solomon Lunger on. What's going on, man?
What up, Brandon? How are you, bud?
I guess I pronounced your last name correct, didn't I?
You did. You did. And that was the first try.
So you're down in Florida still, right?
I am. I'm in Miami, Florida, and been here pretty much my whole life. Actually, thinking about moving, but only up a little bit, probably to Central Florida. Just change it up a bit. But yeah, for now, I'm down here in Miami.
Go from extreme heat to just high heat. Is that where you're trying to?
Yeah, pretty much. A little bit more space. That's really all it is.
I saw you were trying to sell some of your collection and all that, so I figured there was some kind of move or something involved.
Definitely. I have too much stuff that I've now come to the realization I'm not going to get to for a while, and I'd rather just actually finish like my SEMA trucks are still not done, and SEMA was like 4 or 5 months ago. It was, it's just like I didn't want to rush to finish them, so we just didn't do a lot of stuff. And then now I'm like, all right, I can't just keep blowing money when I don't have a reason to.
Yeah.
So, sell some projects, get some money back, finish some actual trucks, start driving them, go to some shows, enjoy it instead of having just a bunch of trucks that don't run.
Well, I always start out to find out where my guest got into the modified vehicle world. So, what got you started in this whole industry? I guess before the industry, what got you started? Is it being a passion?
Um, so automotive runs in my blood. Like my great grandfather, when they immigrated after the Holocaust, they went to upstate New York, and he opened up a used car dealership. So back then he had like 30s and 40s cars, and all the cars that didn't sell were in his personal backyard, and it was like a junkyard. So me in the 90s, there was cars from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s just sitting in his backyard, like rusting away. And I would always go back there and play around. And then we moved to Florida when I was 5. And my dad didn't like flying. So we just road trip to New York because all of our family lived in New York. So we would road trip like 3 times a month back and forth to New York. So like we were always driving. And my dad was like, into like silly gadgets. Like he modified his car in different ways. Like he would put every radar detector and like cattle guards and lights and like all the things you need for like road trips. But like he was
Deer
really
middle.
into it. Like he would literally go into the store and buy all the things that like me and you laugh at. He was the guy that got like CB radios, the this thing, like all the chrome accessories. Like that was my dad and still is, and he loved it. Um, so he was into that, and then his father was a bus driver and like charter buses, road trips, and like the cars were just something that I always loved. And I remember like I was probably like 10, 12 years old. Mind you, I was born in 93, and I was watching.
Damn, really? I didn't think you were
Yeah,
that much younger than me. I
sorry.
graduated in '94, so
Yeah, born in 93. So I remember watching the TV show Rides, and hot rod, American hot rod, and overhauling, and those really I just thought was awesome. I wanted to be like Chip Foose and Troy Trepanier. So I remember I was like 15, and I was walking, and I saw a 1963 Ford Falcon car, and like I asked the guy like where it was, how much. He sold it to me for like $125. It was like a pile of garbage. I ended up just scrapping it, and then I just kept buying random junk, trying to find like a better vehicle. And I had like a '84 Firebird that was junk, and then I got a '69 Firebird, and then I got like just a bunch of random stuff, and just kept trying to find like better vehicles and having fun doing it. And this is like I'm like 15 years old, and then when I was 16, I went to it's called JETS, Jewish Educational Trade School in California, and I went there to study photography, web design, and welding, bodywork, and painting. And it was just like a random, like the school like had like a bunch of boxes you could just check what you want to learn. So I'm like, these are the
checked them
things.
all.
Yeah, those are the things that interested me, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. After I graduated high school, I went to Wyotech. When I was at Wyotech, my core program was collision refinishing, and then I went on to do hot rod, street rod, and motorsports chassis fabrication as my specialties. So like I know how to build a car from front to back, like actually build it. I've got a bunch of welding certifications, but between all of that, like before going to Wyotech, but after like during high school, I started doing photography. And being in California, I got introduced to like car clubs and Swift Car Club in particular. They were like very heavy in the 808, which is where I was in San Fernando Valley. And then when I went back to Miami, I saw that there was a Swift Car Club there, and I became friends with the president. And I'm like 17 at the time, and these are like 24s, big rims, donks, big body cars. And I'm like
Crazy odds.
yeah, and I'm like a 17-year-old Jewish kid. Like, you just like, these trucks and cars are awesome. Like, I want to build you guys a website. And he's like, how much is it? And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it for free. I want to build you guys a website. I like what you do. You don't have a website. So I build him a website, and then I'm like, I need pictures. And he's like, well, we don't have anything. So the guy, his name was Pernu, he drove me to Best Buy and he bought me a camera, and he's like, here, like, this is for you building us the website, but now follow us around and take pictures. So I start taking pictures of them, like whatever I needed for the website. And do you remember a magazine called Rides Magazine?
Sure do.
So
Brian
this,
Scotto ran it.
well, Brian left. This was run at that time by Evan Yates, Evo.
Evo. Yeah.
So Evo reached out to me because, and I'm like fresh into this stuff, and he reached out to me and Pernu because they wanted to put the, actually, see, I've got my collection of magazines here. I could probably find the exact one that I'm
Yeah,
talking
because I shot for Brian when he was there, before he left. Because I remember, he called where I was on the phone with him, or whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm leaving the magazine. I'm going to work for Monster Energy." At the time I was at Pepsi, so I'm like, "You're leaving the magazine to go roll drinks into stores?" And he's like, "No, I'm actually going to work for Monster Energy." Had no clue that he meant Ken Block. Like, I didn't know that was the route he was going with it.
Yeah. So I actually met Andrew Link, who's a photographer, at this photo shoot, and they shot two donks and two Escalades. And I was like, this is really cool. I just kept taking more pictures of like all of our club stuff, and I basically took pictures of every single Miami club member's vehicle, and then they would take those photos and they wouldn't publish it in the magazine, but they'd put it onto their website. And I didn't get paid or anything, but it was just exciting. And then I wanted to go to Wyotech, so I wanted to go to the Sacramento campus, and my brother was going to go with me. My brother's 2 years younger than me. So we decided to do a road trip from Miami to Sacramento, and we were going to stop into every single Swift chapter along the way. And I was doing photo shoots for free of every single member's cars, just for fun. At this time I was already part of the club, like I was a member, um, and it was just a lot of fun. So I ended up like literally stopping in, and I never met these people, but we were friends on Facebook because that's what it was back then. This pre Instagram stuff, and this is like 2013. Yeah, 2013 probably, maybe, yeah, 2013, 14. And we do this road trip, and Ride shares a lot of the photos, which gets me more excited to keep doing this stuff. And I end up going to Wyotech. While I'm there, keep doing club stuff. At this time now, I'm like taking like pictures, not for a living, but just like for fun. But I'm taking pictures at every weekend, every car show I go to. Like, if you go on my personal Facebook and you just go way back on like albums, you'll see all these like really bad photos that I took back then, but I thought was awesome. And like, that's you grow with it. Um, and
Well,
that's,
what made you want to go to Wyotech? Did you think you'd want to go there and come out and start working at a shop or something? Was that your
yeah,
goal?
yeah. So I never thought photography made money. And my end goal was always like, be like Chip Foose or Troy Trepanier. And Chip Foose on Overhauling kept talking about Wyotech. So I had to go to Wyotech. And when I was there, um, me and my brother, our plan was to open up a shop and like just have a custom shop, Lunger Brothers, Speed and Customs, and I do the paint and body and hot rod stuff, and he builds the motors and does the chassis stuff, and it was going to be a thing. Um, and then I'm skipping a part of it, but when I was in Wyotech, I found out about a new wheel company called Amani Forged that was based out of Miami. So when I came home for spring break, I was at this time I'm also the president of Swift Car Club on the East Coast. So I went to meet with the owner of Amani and be like, hey, if you give me a good deal on your wheels, like I'll get a lot of our members to buy your wheels. And he gave me a really good deal, and I sold a ton of wheels for him. And then I did photo shoots of all of those vehicles for free and gave it to him, and he was like blown away. So before I graduated Wyotech, he hired me to be his marketing director, and this was like my first job ever at like 19.
Wow. So you stepped into it early.
And I had no idea what I was doing either. And that's really what I would say that was like my pivotal shift, because like had he not given me the job as a marketing slash photography person, I would have graduated because I was already like I reached out to Rad Rides by Troy, and I was going to get an internship over there, and I was going to move to Illinois, and like that's what I was going to do, and I wanted to be a fabricator. Um, but I got this really good job. Like I remember starting pay was like 60 grand, and I thought that was tons of money.
As a 19-year-old kid, that's ridiculous.
Right. So I was like, yeah, and it was in Miami. Like I could live at home, so works out great. So I ended up taking the job from him, and because I'm 19 and have no idea what I'm doing, I just blow a bunch of his money and piss off a bunch of his vendors, and like because I'm like selling directly to my car club members, I'm basically cutting out all of the actual like shops down in Miami or anywhere that have been selling to these customers forever. So now they're going to my boss and they're like, "What the fuck? This kid's." I'm sorry, I don't know if I could curse on here.
You're good. You're good.
But he's like, this kid is like, he's cutting us all of our money out because I'm trying to market, right? Like marketing. Who am I marketing? I'm selling it to all of my friends and all the car clubs for better deals, so that way we could build a brand. And all the shop owners are like, what the hell? Those are my customers, and you're giving them better deals. So I only worked for him for like 3 months, and then he fired me because his customers got the better of him. And then also we this is now it's SEMA 2013, and he bought a 2014 C7 Corvette, and it just came out, and we had to pay like 50 grand over MSRP to buy it. And the idea was we were going to do a wide body and get it to SEMA and be like the first wide body C7 blah 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 to promote our wheels. And our competitor at the time, Forgiato, paid the person that we paid to do the wide body to not do the wide body, but he didn't tell us that. So
Damn.
my boss was like, "Dude, we haven't heard anything from this guy in weeks. Go fly to California and see what's up with this car." And I fly there, and the car's sitting in the parking lot stock, and the guy's like, "Here's your money. Sorry, I can't do the job." And I'm like, "SEMA's in 3 weeks. What do you mean you can't do the job? You've had this like." He's like, "Yeah, blah 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 blah." So you know, there was that plus pissing off all the shops got me canned, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened. But what was funny is their competitor Forgiato wanted to hire me because they just wanted to hire anybody that worked for that guy. So they reached out to me. So right when he fired me, I went to work for them, and I was their photographer for like 3 or 4 years, and they flew me all around the world, and I literally did thousands of photo shoots for them. That's what grew me as a photographer, because like when I worked for Amani, I got my 5D Mark III, and then when I started working for Forgiato, I bought my strobes. I had alien bees, and like I wanted to like up my game, and I was like, I'm getting a steady paycheck as a photographer. I started like learning more how to use Lightroom. I was really good at Photoshop, but didn't know how to use Lightroom, and just like wanted to become a lot better at it. And then I was doing like 10 photo shoots a day for 4 years. So you really start to learn the processes when
Yeah.
you do that many photo shoots. And
It becomes muscle memory.
they don't, they're not magazine photo shoots. They're for Instagram and for the website, but you still have to take good photos, and the angles and like all of these things just really do, like you said, become muscle memory. So
That's
that's
like my Mecum guy that I shoot for. It's the same spot 99% of the time. Sometimes we'll have to do something somewhere else, but it's usually the same spot, same time of day. The light's the same. It's a plug and play. I get back to edit. It's a plug and play. Like, it's become so much easier to do his shoots and his edits because it's just a plug and play, throw it in the machine and go.
Absolutely. And what was really cool about when I worked for Forgiato was they literally flew me everywhere, so I met everyone. Like, everybody back then, this is 2014, 15. Everybody was just in their infancies of everything they're doing. So like, I'm going to shows and it's like, people are excited to meet each other. There's not, it was just the beginning of Instagram. And I'm working for a company that at the time had like 700,000 followers at Instagram. So if I took pictures of your car, you're definitely getting on that Instagram account. Um, it was, it was really, really cool. And then in 2015, I got married and I wanted to not travel as much. So I got into real estate photography, which was a lot of fun. Bought a Matterport camera. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a 3D 360 camera, so you can like
Yeah,
move around.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I had like one of the first ones in South Florida, and back then it was like it made great money. And then like 2 years later, everybody bought the same camera and just knocked the price to the floor. Uh, and at the same time, Mike Alexander became the editor of F100 Builders Guide magazine. So I'm skipping parts because they overlap. But while I was working for Forgiato, doing a photo shoot for Adam at 610 uh, Motorsports, I think it is,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
had a 1961 F100 unibody parked outside, patina truck, long bed, and I never seen a unibody before. And I went there to shoot like a Cutlass 442 convertible on 24s. And I remember I saw this truck parked over there. And at the time, I had a 69 Firebird convertible that I was building at I-95 Motorsports. And Kenny was like, dude, there's no way like you could build this with less than $70,000. And I had no money. And I'm like, I guess I'm selling that car. I can't build that. And then Adams got this truck and I'm talking to him like while I'm doing the photo shoot, like, tell me about this truck. Like, why did they weld the cab and bed together? And he's like, they didn't. That's from factory. And he's explaining to me what a unibody is. And that was the service truck at his local Texaco gas station in Indiana. And his dad just bought it and then shipped it down to him. And he was going to restore it for a football player. And he's like, but I could sell it to you. And I'm like, how much is it? And he's like, it's $2,000. And I'm like, does it run and drive? He's like, it sure does. So I hopped in it and went to try to put it in drive, and he's laughing at me because it's a 3 on the tree.
It's not the same as a regular transmission there.
And I'm like, oh, and he's laughing at me, and then he shows me how to, shift it and whatever. And I bought the truck and drove it home 60 miles. And so that was my first truck. Then, oh, I skipped after I was let go at Amani, and while I was working for Forgiato, I went back to Wyotech for one more specialty class, and I brought my truck with me, and that's where I was gonna bag it on 24 by 15 Forgiatos with 405s, and like I had all the parts, and I started building it to do that. Um, and then because I cut it up and didn't have enough time to finish it, it just stayed in pieces. While I was in Wyotech, I started Unibody Union, which was my Instagram account to post that truck being built. And then all my other friends that had unibodies, I would just share their stuff. So we had somewhere to share it. And it was strictly unibodies, 61 to 63 Fords, because that's what I had. I had a long bed that I was building. It was called Lowbrow. And then because I didn't finish the truck, when I got back home, I was looking for like a running and driving one because I'm like, I'm never going to put this thing back together. So I was like, now I want a short bed. I don't want a long bed. I learned my lesson. Like, I didn't know long beds weren't cool back then. It was my first truck. So I found a short bed, and it was swapped on like a square body Chevy chassis with a 350 and 350. So like in my heart, I knew I didn't want to keep that one, and I was just gonna like make it better and then like sell it for another one. So that's exactly what I did. I ended up making it better and selling it and buying what I still have now, which is Old Red, my 1961 like all original F100, and that's when I started Unibody Union's YouTube channel. which didn't take off. It's still on YouTube, and I made tons of videos, but like no one ever saw them. And it was just fun. Simultaneously, people would daily send me messages on Unibody Union to post their non-unibody Ford truck. And I was like, I only post unibodies. And a buddy of mine started Ford Era. And at the time, it was called Ford underscore era underscore like 1948 underscore 1990.
Big long name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? And he just got a promotion at work and was like slowing down posting. And I was like, dude, why aren't you posting as much? And he's like, I got busy. I can't deal with it. Do you want to deal with it? And I was like, sure. Everybody keeps sending me all the messages to post on Unibody Union. I'll just post on yours. And then because I was posting a lot on Ford Era, I basically like it just shot through the roof and like nobody cared about unibodies. And I was slowly like, okay, well, I'm putting a lot more effort into this one. And then I'm like, well, these trucks are kind of cool. So then I bought a bump side called Oscar the Bump, and I started working on that. Well, back up. I knew Mike Alexander from Slammed Mag. I just liked Slammed Mag, so I friended him on Facebook, and I reached out to him to feature. I was building Lowbrow, my long bed truck, and I was going to lay it out. So I reached out to Mike if he would feature it in Slammed Mag and like building it and whatever. And he's like, absolutely, just send me, updates and stuff. And ended up not doing anything, so I never sent him any updates. And then I saw that he became the editor of F100 Builder's Guide. And at this time, I'm already like running Ford Era for a while, so I'm friends with a lot of the guys that have these trucks. And I've not been an automotive photographer now. At this time, I'm just a real estate photographer for like 2 years already. Um, and Mike gets it, and I reach out to him, and I'm like, dude, great job on the issue. If you ever need help like finding people to feature, I'm friends with all of these guys. I know, which trucks are really badass. I could point you in the right direction. And he's like, I would love the help. I'm swamped, as any editor would say, right? So he basically, I give him a bunch of people's info, and then he saw my truck and my friend Simi's truck. We both had unibodies that we basically built, and he's like, "You should do a photo shoot of your own trucks, and I'll feature that." And then one of my friends, Hutch, or actually I didn't know the guy. I just sent him an Instagram account of this truck in West Palm Beach. So he's like, "Yeah, go do a photo shoot with that, a twin turbo Coyote truck." And that's Hutch from Hutch's Welding, who's now one of my best friends. But at that time, I didn't know him, and that was like my first two photo shoots getting back into automotive stuff, and it was because of Mike becoming the editor for F100.
So
And
was that your first dabble into actual printed magazine photography?
so no, when I was working for Forgiato, I got into Rides magazine. I did like Forgiato Fest show coverage. And then when I worked for Forgiato, I also did a bunch of stuff for Dub magazine.
Okay. Feature
Um,
wise?
yeah, like feature stuff. Nothing crazy, but I stopped for years and then got back into it with Mike. And then that was like my real like back into it was when I like 2018 pretty much when Mike became the editor.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, and this is like skipping parts, but like I don't know why in my memory I remembered Mike being a dick to me.
That's just Mike though. He's like that to everybody.
So I thought that was my memory because you guys on Facebook, and this was like when we were actually on Facebook and like people would post statuses all day and like talk all the time. So like Mike was always, I guess, talking and mean or whatever. So me and him are doing a road trip randomly. Like this is in 2020 already from Miami to California. And I told him, I'm like, dude, why were you so rude to me that first time? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'll bet you, blah, blah, blah. I was super nice to you. And I'm like, no way. And we swipe back. It took like an hour and a half for us to swipe up from our Facebook messages to find the first message to where I figure out that I was wrong and he was super nice to me.
Well, I had somebody comment, and I brought it up when I had Mike on. One of my buddies was like, "Hey, you mentioned Mike. Do y'all like each other?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Do we like each other?" It's like, "Well, y'all's interactions and stuff on posts, comments back and forth." He's like, "I swear y'all hate each other." I'm like, "Nope, that's just Mike. That's just how." That literally, I've been questioned that about Mike, and it's like that's just how Mike is. That's what's fun about him.
Funny. But yeah, he got me back into it, and then he introduced me to Chris Hamilton. That was right when Chris became the editor. So I started doing stuff with Mike like 6 months before SEMA, and then I was going out to SEMA, and I met Chris at SEMA, and he had me shoot Cover Girl, which is a 65 C10, and then I went to Dino's for my first time, and then he had me shoot Mickey Vowell's Suburban that Trey 5 built, the blue one.
Blue, yeah, the one that just sold.
Yep. And then he had me shoot. Those were my first two like covers for street trucks, and that blew my mind because like this is like issue number one that I have since I'm a kid, and then I shot the cover of Street Trucks, and it was like, psh, and then I just had to keep doing it back and back and back.
Well, Street Trucks was the first print magazine I ever shot for back in '01. Like Brian McCormick gave me the shot to be able to shoot for them back then, and that's what snowballed me
Which
doing
issue?
that. Do it.
Do you remember the issue number?
No, not on that one because my first cover wound up being a trucking cover. But
Gotcha.
like the first show that I covered for Street Trucks, which was all Chevy GMC truck nats and Pigeon Forge, one of the ones that Charlie Cobble used to do. Like I said, this was '01. Then the first show I covered for Street Trucks, I got introduced to Dan Ward, that was like feature editor at Trucking at the time. And like then the first show I covered for Trucking, I got introduced to Johnny O. Like it just kind of snowballed that first year.
I've got a
But
funny
Street
story.
Trucks was the first one that gave me that chance in print, and just never stopped.
It's funny you mentioned Johnny O. So it's just a random like shiny ball thing. But during those 3 months at my first job at Amani, I met Johnny O because he was the lead photographer at a thing called Icon Media, and my boss was going to have Johnny O train me, and he fired me before I could go do the training. But like the deal was I was going to go out to California for like a month and just hang out with him every day and like learn how he does stuff. And that's how we met, and then we became Facebook friends. And he would always just give me tips and tricks.
He did the same thing with me, but this is before Facebook, so
Yeah, just random. But it's funny how big and small this world is. Like I thought it was so big, and then when you get back into it, you're like, wait, everybody knows everybody, and everybody does everything the same. And even though it's like many different genres of cars and trucks and whatever, it's like it's still just about the same people.
yep. It all ties back to the same passion that we all have.
Yeah.
So, during this whole time, you were still doing the Ford Air stuff. You were just doing the online deal. That's before, I guess, you went full out with it.
Yeah. So it was just an Instagram account. Nobody knew that I ran it. Like it wasn't, nobody knew whose it was. It was just an Instagram account that posted pictures of badass trucks. And it was I would say at that time it was like 80% reshare content, 20% original content, maybe even less than that. And I remember everything was great. I mean, I was doing tons of features and covers for street trucks and F100 and C10 and OBS. I remember at one time I had the cover of street trucks, the cover of C10, the cover of F100, the cover of OBS all at the same time. And I'm like, that's every single one of Engaged things. And like, that was bitching. And then COVID hit, and like the magazine was like, we don't know what's up. So there's no money for nothing. Cause like there might not be a magazine anymore. Like we don't know what's up.
Yeah.
And my daughter was born like right then. She was born February 2020. And I decided I didn't need Old Red anymore. So I made a raffle, and I got after I did the raffle and donated some of the money, I had like 20 grand. And then I had another like $8,000 saved up. And I'm like, I'm going to find an old crew cab so I could put my daughter in the back seat. And then I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So I start looking and found Gold Dust for 25 grand in Idaho. And it was
This
ready.
is 2020.
This is in 2020. So I reach out to Josh, the guy, and we start talking about it. And everybody was hating on this truck, like crazily hating on this truck. All the comments whenever it would be posted for sale were crazy. So I reach out to him and I'm like, why are people so crazy? And he's like, they're just a bunch of haters. And he's like, this is the best truck you'll ever get. And I'm like, okay, well, I could fly there in 3 days and I'll bring cash if it's really as good as you say. If not, just I'll fly home. So I fly there with my best friend Simi, and it's a 1970 F-250 4x4 crew cab, only two-wheel drive, but it was converted on a 96 Ram 2500 chassis with a 12 valve. So it was already done. And
I knew it had a 12 valve, but I didn't know it was a full frame swap.
yeah, full frame swap. So it was done by Jimmy at Old Iron Diesel in Idaho. And we drove it home 3,000 miles. And my YouTube channel had 0 subscribers when I was in Idaho. And when I made it back to Florida, I had like 5,500. And I made 5 or 6 videos on the road trip home. And I had a ton of fun. I mean, I had like 150,000 followers or Instagram followers. So promoting, hey, I have a YouTube channel, go look at it, it worked. And it just gave me the confidence to do it. Plus I had no money coming in and I had 100% of time because like there was nothing to do. It was COVID. So me and Simi decided to rent a shop, and we were always talking about, taking things more seriously. And it was actually, in a way, it was Chris Hamilton's fault because in January we met, and he was like, we want to do like street trucks, like get a shop, start doing things more professional, do YouTube stuff, do this, do that. And we were talking about all these things, and then when everybody just got paused, I was like, well, those are still great ideas, so I'm just going to keep doing that, but just for Ford Era.
Yeah.
So I rented the shop, started just taking my stuff more seriously, and still like putting out a ton of content. I mean, when I started my channel, I think I was doing like daily videos for like
Now when
six.
you rented the shop, were you doing just your stuff? Do you have customers or something?
No. It's just me and Simi. So Simi's my best friend since I'm 5 years old, and the rent was like $800 for each of us a month. And we both, I was married, but we both had like a little bit of savings. So we're like, okay, we could afford to rent this for like a year and try to figure it out. He was opening a mechanic shop out of it. I was just going to rent it so I could work on my trucks and try to have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
So during that time, or I guess it was right after that, you started working with F100 Builders Guide.
So
How did that come about?
well, that was before that.
Okay.
So in I started working with F100, helping Mike in 2018. Then that the first time was my pictures in Hutch's truck. Then the next issue I did like 6 features. Then the next issue I did like 10 features plus a bunch of tech. And then like on that third issue that I helped him with, he named me tech editor. And then on I was helping him as tech editor, and then Chris brought me to help him just do a bunch of photos. So I started helping Chris do a lot of photos, but at the same time I was doing F100 Builders Guide, tech editing plus photography.
Now you ran F100 for a little while yourself, though.
That was after. So in 2020, everybody basically just got paused at the magazine, and then I started my YouTube channel, and I kind of had a falling out with Chris. So I was just like focused on myself and didn't really care to, do anything with anybody. Just let me build my own stuff. And
Yeah.
then we just keep bumping into each other. So it just worked out in 2021 that they're like, we really could use the help. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as it's not a problem that I have my own stuff. They're like, no, not a problem. We worked everything out. And they made me the editor for F100 Builders Guide. And that was in 2021.
That's about the time Mike went, I guess,
That's when he became
full time at Airlift.
That is the time he became full-time at Airlift, yeah.
Yeah.
And he also needed a little bit less of an easier role, and I guess C10 was a little bit easier.
Yeah. So during that time though, when you were doing that, you didn't have any other kind of day job per se. You were just doing your content and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Never had a day job. It was always either content or photography. Like, a lot of companies too, like wheel companies, like random products.
Yeah.
And then merch, selling Ford era merch and Union by Union merch and stickers and keychains and hats. And go to
So
fordera.com. You can get them right now.
did you I guess officially take over the Ford Air brand from the
Yeah.
guy who started it?
Yes. Literally, like right away, he was just like, here. When it became officially mine is when I changed the name from making it really long, and I wanted it to be just Ford era, but Instagram wouldn't let it, so that's when I made it the Ford era. And
Gotcha.
that was also like 2015 or 16. So yeah,
So during that time, I guess is when you picked up Snickers, because that one, or was that later on?
that's in 2022. I basically 2020 is when Ford Era's YouTube started, so that's kind of when my face got kind of back. It became part of it. Before
Yeah.
then, no one really knew, and it was actually Broy's fault from Square Body Syndicate at the time. Because I asked him, I'm like, dude, what could I do to make my account different? He's like, right now you're the same as all the other repost accounts. He's like, you need to switch from 80% repost, 20% original, to 20% repost and 80% original. He's like, that's how you will become something more than just a repost account. And that advice plus starting my YouTube channel made me in 2020 begin all of that stuff. Then also 2015, I bought a house with my wife right when we got married. Side note for what I'll say soon. So then 2020 goes good. I had money saved a little. Then things were still flowing. I was doing freelance work for the magazines while doing Ford Era, but very little of it. Then in 2021, I went back to be the editor and then started helping with all the other magazines just in photography as well. And then in 2021 and a half, like right before 22, some guy knocks on my door and like offers me a ridiculous amount of money to buy my house. Like ridiculous amount of money at the time. Now it's not, but at that time it was stupid.
Yeah.
So I sold
Just
it,
just walked up and knocked on the door, didn't?
literally knocked on the door. So I called my dad who's into real estate and I'm like, how much is my house worth? And my dad tells me like half the number this guy just offered me. And I'm like, this guy just offered me this number. And he's like, if that guy offered you that much money, sell your house right now. So
You just walk up to some random house and be like, "I want your house."
I mean, I live in a very Jewish neighborhood, and we all need to be within walking distance to the synagogue. So there's only so many houses. So he was literally just trying his luck and knocking on houses, and
Gotcha.
he found one. So he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I sold my house, and I'm weird in my like faith and belief with God. So like I'm like, this is a sign. I need to like double down on Ford Air. Now I have money because I kept crying to myself like I don't have any money. I can't grow this. So I talked with my wife, and she's like, all right, let's build a tiny house. So I built a tiny house in my in law's backyard, a 12 by 32 shed, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom.
And how
And
many kids did you have at this time?
at that time, I only had two.
Okay. That's
So
small for a family of four.
it's very small for a family of two. And definitely now I have a family of four, it's even smaller. But I'm in my in law's backyard, so we do have their house to help. Um, and it was supposed to be we had a 5 year plan, so this is now 5 year, and that's why things are finally moving because the plan is going according to plan, I guess. And the plan was build a tiny house, and whatever money's left over, invest into Ford Era. So what does that mean? It just means that I have money to keep paying rent, and that now I don't have to get sponsorships every time. I could still build my trucks without having everything, because like it's hard when you don't have any money. You like have to really pitch yourself to these companies and convince them to work with you
Yeah.
because you can't afford to buy the parts. Like that's just point blank period. And you finally have some money that you could at least most companies don't want to give it to you for 100% off. So like, all right, things started flowing a little better. I could build these trucks, and I had gold dust, and I had a bunch of ideas of what I wanted to do to it, and that's it. I only had that truck, and I mean, I might have had a couple like real shit boxes, but like that was my only like actually driving truck.
Yeah.
Um, so I just keep doing content. I'm traveling everywhere, going to shows, having fun, and I mean, all of the stuff's still on my YouTube channel. So you guys go to Ford Era and check all of it out. And I meet a guy named Don who's a big fan, and he's telling me about a honey hole in Tennessee. He's like, "There's this honey hole I've been going to for 30 years. They got the da 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 da," and he's telling me how it's literally like the best honey hole in the world. You got to go with me. You got to go with me. And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go with you to the woods in Tennessee by myself."
Doesn't sound sketchy at all.
Right? Like I barely know this guy, so now he has my number. So for like 6 months, he doesn't stop telling me, "You got to go with me. You got to go with me. You got to go with me." So finally, one weekend, when he hits me up, it was like the perfect time that I didn't have anything going on, and I'm like, "All right, I'll fly in." So because I was kind of sketched out, I reached out to my buddy Bennett in Atlanta. I'm like, "Hey, can you pick me up at the airport, and then let's go, drive. It's like an hour from where he was in Atlanta, right over to Tennessee. It was outside of Chattanooga." And I'm like, "Come with me. Let's check out this collection of trucks. This guy says is some honey hole, and we'll just have fun." And I didn't know what I was going to. I've seen no photos of anything there. All I know is this guy keeps telling me I have to go. So I show up, and it's a massive what's it called? Like new warehouse district.
Okay.
And I'm like, this must be the wrong place. There's no way there's a junkyard here. And then like I get to the back of it, and there's this beautiful, massive, new-ish, probably built in 2015, huge building with trucks everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Um, and my buddy's sitting right out front. And I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Where's, the other guy?" And he's like, "Oh, he went to go get lunch. You guys showed up a little bit late. We were like 20 minutes late." So he's like, he'll get lunch and he'll come back, but go look around, walk around, have fun. So I go walk around with Bennett, and we're just looking at stuff, and I made a video. And then the guy gets back. His name is Brent, and he's like, "So, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Man, this is a badass collection." And he's like, "I want to sell all of it. I want to move to Oklahoma, and this is what's holding me here in Tennessee." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Do you want to buy any of it?" Now, mind you, I just sold my house, and I've got way too much money in the bank. So he doesn't know that.
Dangerous combo.
Yeah, he doesn't know that. So he's like, "How much money do you have to work with?" And I told him a number, but it was like a super low number, like enough for like 3 or 4 trucks. And just because I'm not gonna tell him what I actually have to spend, thinking I'm only gonna buy one truck. And there was a Midas Touch truck I really, really wanted. So I he's like, "Walk around and make a list of what you want." So I literally made a list of like 32 trucks, and he looks at the list, and in my head, I was like, "I want to pay this much for all of those," and we were off by $8,000. Like his first number to me was 8,000 more than my number that I wanted to pay, which my number was like a crazy low number.
Yeah.
And then he's like, before I could even answer, he's like, "Or everything on the property for like an additional 25 grand." And I'm like, "What?" Like it made no sense. But to him, he just wanted out. Like this dude's a multi-millionaire, so he didn't need the money. It wasn't a money thing. He just wanted out of all of the it was 114 trucks and a
Yeah.
10,000 square foot warehouse full of parts. So he just wanted he basically, I paid him to clear out his trash, is how he put it to me. And what was crazy is I call my wife, and she's like, "If you think it's right, do it." So I bought it, and I couldn't move any of it. Right, it's so much stuff, and I'm on his property, and he's like, "I don't want you not to make money on it. I don't care." So like I start listing things for sale. Like I basically moved to Tennessee for the summer of 2022, and I was selling things off the property, but he was selling it. So like, let's say I bought that truck off him for 4 grand. Now there's a buyer coming up, but I don't know anything about the truck. So he goes to talk to them, and then he sells that truck for 10 grand to them, and then hands me the money. Like it was the craziest. He was just happy because he was a fan of my YouTube channel. I didn't know that.
Was it all Ford stuff?
It was all Fords and Dodges. I didn't buy any of the Dodge stuff, which I regret. But like I was hard headed, and I was like, when he made me the deal, he's like, everything on the property for this much. I was like, I'll take everything but the Dodges. And then he gave me like a little bit off. I didn't want the Dodges. And then I called my Dodge friend who bought most of them. Um, it was it was crazy. It was a really awesome experience. And I bought it in mid May 2020 or 2022. Then Power Tour was coming up in June. And I was like, well, I just bought all these trucks. Which one do you think would make Hot Rod Power Tour? And he's like, well, nothing that I sold you, you could easily make it because it was like a week away.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I do have my personal collection of stuff that I didn't show you that's not for sale, but maybe I could show you one truck that I could sell you that will make Power Tour. And I'm like, well, you sandbagging son of a bitch. Like, where's this other warehouse? So he drives me over to this other warehouse and he won't let me in the warehouse. He opens up the door, drives Snickers out, closes the door, won't let me see what else is in the warehouse. And he's like, I'll sell you this truck. And I'm like, holy cow, like blown away by how nice Snickers is. He bought it and had it stored in that warehouse for 26 years.
Wow.
Never drove it, never did anything but maintenance it. And he's like, you're the kind of person that would actually drive this truck. If you will, use it, I'll sell it to you. And I'm like, I'm about to drive it 2,000 miles next week.
Yeah.
So I buy it off of him. And then he's like, well, it's been sitting for 26 years. We need to go through it. So, the shop, the 10,000 square foot shop is a full blown shop. Now, it's been closed for years because the guy, he got into precious metal recycling, but he was a restoration shop before that. But the recycling business started making him so much money that he literally just was paying the rent on the F100 shop, but had no employees, had no nothing because he couldn't focus on it. But he had all his tools, lifts, everything there. So we brought Snickers over. He had the name Snickers, by the way. So the
Okay.
name was transferred, just like Goldust. Goldust was transferred. Um, and we redid the fuel system, brake systems, did like full tune-up and all this stuff to like prep it to go on Power Tour.
Get it drivable.
Yeah, get it like actual drivable. We did everything but the radiator. And then my buddy Craig 909, another Ford YouTube guy, he flew in and we went on Hot Rod Power Tour together in the truck, kept overheating. We replaced the radiator on the side of the road and then had the rest of a great time with that truck.
Which in turn makes for good video content.
It was awesome. I mean, it was literally like me and 20 other like YouTubers in the parking lot of our hotel at like 2 a.m. in Nashville, Tennessee. Like, it was awesome. And, that's how you make really good friends and really great memories, is bad road trip experiences, honestly.
Now, was the Power Tour when you did the burnout contest?
No, so on Power Tour, the truck was bone stock. It was, 400 modified, and but it was a great truck. So I drove it back to Florida, and then I put vintage air in it, a wiring harness from Painless, and in 2019, I had the opportunity to build a SEMA truck. So I started working on it, and the truck was called Clyde, and it was a patina truck, and it was a bump side. And that's when I got a Godzilla motor donated from Ford. But because SEMA 2020 was canceled, the whole project kind of fizzled out. But the motor that I got donated was sitting at Mast Motorsports because Mast was going to build it into one of their 700 horsepower NA Godzilla motors. And Mast calls me it was like August or July 2022, and they're like, hey, we've had this motor sitting here. We want to get some promotion out of it. Like, could we get that truck finished and take it to Holly Ford Fest in the end of September? And I'm like, there's no way Clyde could get done, but I just picked up this awesome truck called Snickers, and it's perfect, all original, blah, blah, blah. It would be a perfect truck to just swap the motor into. So I drive the truck from Miami to Texas, and within like a month and a half, we do this whole motor swap, and we bring it to Holly Ford Fest. And then, I'm like, oh, well, we just got this whole thing and blah, blah, blah. And I never tested anything with the truck before. Like we just swapped it, got it on a trailer, took it to Bowling Green, unhooked it, drove it into the show, and parked it. And then I'm like, you know what would be a great idea to show off how much power this Godzilla motor has? Burnout competition. So I go into it, and I remember I'm talking to Sparky, the guy from Holly, and he's like, when you go into the burnout competition, I'm like, hey, I want to go first. So that way I could do like a weakest burnout and nobody will remember. Because like people remember weak burnouts at the end. They don't remember weak burnouts at the beginning. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just want to go in, do something small, and just so I could say that I did it and get the photo and then leave. And I go in and start doing the burnout, and because we just built everything, the computer wasn't tuned correctly, and because I was like bouncing it off the limiters, it kept shutting it off. So it would piss me off. So every time it turned on, I would just like go harder, and then I didn't realize that I broke the clutch posi and just one tire was spinning, and then boom.
So that's the, I guess, the burnout explosion heard around the world or something. Was that did that make a massive increase in your Ford Air traffic?
Um, yes. I mean, I don't think it was massive. I think that it. I would say that it was definitely the thing that made everybody know exactly who I was. Like they already knew. They were like everybody saw me. They might have seen me at shows, seen me driving my trucks. Like I was always around, but they might not have known who I was or knew my name.
Friends showing me that video. Man, did you see this truck that did this? I'm like, yeah, that's Solomon's. Like that's
Right. So like a lot of people might have known, like they might have seen me, but had no idea who I was. Right. And then after that video, like they're like, oh, that's him. So
yeah.
it was a good and bad thing because like that was also when Whistle and Diesel was blowing up trucks all the time. So people thought I did that on purpose. And I was promoting before that. I was promoting the fact that it was an all original paint Survivor one of one truck.
Yeah.
So, like people were really butthurt that I blew up my own truck that I paid for with my own money. Like they couldn't understand the fact that like I could do whatever I want with my truck.
Your truck, isn't that what the point of it being your truck is?
I mean, they think it's the Mona Lisa or something. I mean, I don't get it, but I said I was going to fix it. Obviously, fast forward a couple years, truck's way better than it ever was.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was. I'm very happy the interior was brown. Is all I'm going to say.
The seat was brown prior to the burnout contest.
Yes.
If it wasn't, you were going to tell people it was brown before the burnout contest.
Yes. Dude, it was so sketchy.
When did you know that Ford Era was going to be that thing for you?
Um,
Is there a pivotal moment you're like, well, this really took off. Now I need to go 100%. Like, what was that moment?
when I got home from the road trip after I bought Goldust, and I got a call from Blaine Burnett, who was at that time like the main marketing guy at Holly, and he was like, "Hey, like we were friends on Facebook, but he literally texted me on Facebook like, "What's your phone number?" And then he called me and he was like, "Hey man, I've been watching your videos on your road trip home. I'm really impressed with what you're doing. Reach out to us if you ever need anything." So like I thought that was crazy that Holly reached out to me, and that was my all right. I need to give this my everything. Like if they see something in me, that means that there's something here.
Well, I guess it was after the Snickers burnout fiasco. I guess you went back to F100 Builders Guide.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So that's when so that's what I said it earlier, but it was after Snickers. When basically I was just doing everything everywhere, and Chris would always see me everywhere, and we had a little bit of bad blood between us because I didn't like the way things were handled in 2020, but everything was rectified and everything worked out a lot better. And then they made me the editor, so that worked out great.
Because we shared the same conference calls on Tuesdays there for a while. So
Yeah,
with the
it was
magazine,
fun. It was a lot of fun. I guess I'm really good at like whenever I do a job, I'm really good at my job and like way better than people expect it to be. And it pissed off the same people that it pissed off the first time. So I mean, you were there. I don't know. I'm still freelancing for them now, so I'm just going to be quiet.
Yeah, same. I still, but I still shoot for, Rob at Classic Truck and, Scott at CK and everything. So
Yeah,
it's all part of the industry at that point. So
yeah, I'm back to shooting with them now, so we'll see.
so I guess we're a step up a couple years. So this past year at SEMA, for those that don't know, the carbon fiber Ford that was in the Ford Motorsports booth was yours, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
how did an all carbon fiber truck come about?
So, basically the power of the community of what Ford Era is that truck, right? So I mentioned I was in 2019 SEMA supposed to build a truck called Clyde. That's why the truck is still called Clyde. That was a patina truck, a black patina truck that I bought from Boris at Street Machinery. And we called it Clyde because it was black with very heavy patina that was like brown. So it looked like a Clydesdale horse, in my opinion. And it was going
Gotcha.
to get, a Coyote motor, which is a Mustang, a powerful, horse. So I'm like, all right, it needs to be a Clydesdale. And then Clyde is short for Clydesdale. Well, in 2019, when that project was a go, it was a not rusty, beautiful patina truck. 2023 at SEMA, Ford came back. Ford left SEMA for like a year or two.
Yeah.
When they came back, they were in the same spot of where my truck was this year. And I'm walking through the booth, and the guy that donated me the truck that's in the motor that's in Snickers we were talking about the crazy blowout in Snickers and how they were very happy, basically with the return on their investment. They're like, we sold a bunch of those motors. Maybe not. It was because of me. I don't know. But that's, they were just happy. Like the partnership worked out. They got their deliverables basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, we're about to come out with the Gen 4 Coyote. Do you have any projects? And I'm like, well, I still have that truck Clyde that we originally got that motor for. I mean, I have the chassis. So Fat Fender Garage slash Porterbuilt worked with me on the chassis, and I had the chassis. Like it took a couple years for it to get finished, and then I finally had it sitting here in my shop. And I was going to work on the truck, and I didn't know what motor I was going to put into it. So it just kind of all worked out. So at SEMA 23, he's like, hey, reach out to me, and let's figure out how to get you one of these new Coyotes. So when I get home, I reach out to him, and he's like, all right, holidays, things are a little busy. I'll hit you up in January. So he hits me up in the beginning of January 24, and I send in, my request for sponsorship. And they reply with, we don't have any Gen 4s available until Q3, but we really like you and we want to do something. What do you think about if we sent you a GT500 crate motor? And I'm like, what? Huh?
Yes.
What? Huh? Uh,
Yes.
yeah. Uh, so I said yes, and 3 days later, a pallet arrives with the motor on it, and I was blown away because it was really a GT500 crate motor in this box. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm building a SEMA truck. Or, I mean, at this time, I didn't have a commitment of what I'm building it for. All I had was that. So now that the crate showed up, I walk outside to my truck that I haven't looked at in years because, like, it just was a back burner project. And I lift up the hood, and the hood separated in two pieces. There was the top side of the hood and the bottom side of the hood, and they've rusted apart. And the cab was very solid, the hood was rusted out, and the bed was rusted out. And at the same Ford Fest that I did the burnout competition, like a month before that, some guys from Wisconsin reached out to me. His name is Neil, and he was like, "Hey, me and my brothers have a carbon fiber manufacturing company. We are basically the kings of this stuff, and we love bump side trucks, and we fully built a full carbon fiber bump side long bed truck, and we have it finished, and we want your help to promote the truck. Like, we think you know everybody in the Ford world. What should we do with this?" And I'm like, well, next month is Ford Fest. You should bring it there. So they brought it there. I introduced them to some distribution. I featured them. I was the editor for FBG, so I featured them in the magazine. And they were like, dude, if you ever need anything, reach out. And I'm like, yeah, for sure, I'll reach out one day. Never, because their stuff's just so crazy expensive, is what I figured.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had that reach out thing. So when I popped my hood and saw how rusty it was, I also am friends with Boris at Street Machinery. That's who I bought that truck from, and they fix patina. Like, they literally make patina look better than ever. I mean, they fixed all of Snickers. It looks perfect. So I was like, it would be super cool to get a carbon fiber hood and bed and then have them put patina on top of it so the base color of black is really carbon. So I reach out to Neil and I'm like, hey, this is my idea. And he's like, that's so stupid. Why wouldn't you just do a full carbon fiber truck? And I'm like, well, I can't afford a full carbon fiber truck. And he's like, how do you know what your price is? And I'm like, oh, okay. What's my price? And he's like, I don't know. What are you doing? So I start telling him about the project. And then he gives me like a insane price.
Yeah.
So just so everybody's curious what the bodies cost, I'm sure. The bodies cost like $65,000 for everything from front to back.
Okay.
He told me like a third of that is like as a a deal of a price.
And that's what, I've discussed on several other podcasts. A lot of people think if you're quote unquote sponsored, everything's given to you. Yeah, you do have parts, but there's also some parts that you still have to come out of pocket on.
Yeah, I mean it was like around 20, which is an insane deal. But what I didn't know at that time, which a lot of people also don't know, when you get free parts, the labor is not free. I've got like between body working, gapping, like assembling, doing all the clear coat, putting it together, like I've got like 50 more into it, which blew my mind because like my budget, I just had no idea. Like I also thought like the internet thinks like everything's free. Like no, it's not. Um, you're going to SEMA, everything's free. Like no, it's not. Everything costs 5 times more because now you got to overnight everything.
Yeah.
And so it's snowballed. So he gave me the deal on the body, and he basically told me like you could give me payments. So I gave him like you know 5 or 6 different payments until it was finally there. But he trusted me because he already knew what I've done for him, and then I started reaching out and doing more stuff. And I've always wanted to start my own manufacturing, and I was like, this is my you know opportunity to showcase that. Oh, I also didn't say once I got the actual it's going to be carbon fiber and I told Ford that, they were like, well, we would love this to be in our booth for SEMA. And I was like, well, if you could put that on a piece of paper, I will
Which makes
do,
all the difference.
yeah, I will do that. And they put it on a piece of paper and I'm like, all right, I'm going to SEMA. So I started, and this was right before NPMC. I'm not sure if you know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it worked out because now I'm at NPMC with a letter from Ford saying I'm going to SEMA.
For Ford.
Yeah. So it's basically like the green light to get more sponsorships. And basically, I got all the heavy parts on the truck were at a great deal. And then Skyjacker reached out to me and wants to work with Ford Aero. And Skyjackers now they're the official, suspension or lift kits of Ford Aero. And if anybody wants to buy Skyjacker lift, use Ford Aero 10 at checkout. Got to throw that in there. Save 10%
Nice
for
little
everybody.
plug.
Little plug. But they reached out to me and they're like, we would love to work with you and we want to bring Snickers to SEMA. And I've been working on Snickers for like a year and a half at that time, just slowly. And obviously, it had the Godzilla motor. And then I partnered with AMD on the bed. My buddy Cody Smith, and you might know him, he did all the metal work. And then Street Machinery repainted it. So now the truck was repainted, and it was just sitting at my shop. And I didn't really have any like real reason to finish it. But then they're like, we want to bring it to SEMA. So I'm like, all right, perfect. Now I'm building 2 trucks for SEMA. That'll be awesome. Put it on paper. They put it on paper, and I'm like, I didn't know what I was signing up for.
Now, had you had other vehicles at SEMA before? Or was this your first year?
I've attempted to build stuff for SEMA, but I never made it. This was my first time actually making it.
So you did a full swing and did 2 your first year, which is pretty big.
It was Mike's fault.
We can blame him for everything. So
It really is his fault. I saw him build the black F100 in 90 days, and I was like, I mean, if he could do it, I could do it. And then I worked for a short stint in 2019 for Provost Motorsports, and Mike helped us build a 454 SS. You remember that? So we built that in like 60 days. And I'm like, well, if we could do that, I could do this. And I have 6 months. So,
and
yeah,
Snickers is mostly done.
exactly is what I told myself. Yeah. It was 6 months of nightmares, but it was awesome. Like honestly, I don't regret any of it. Uh, we didn't. I didn't want to, rush it for SEMA. I was like, I'd rather it not have things finished than it be half-assed. So, like, I knew what both companies wanted. Like, I was very, transparent with them, and they're like, focus on these aspects, and if it doesn't drive, it doesn't drive. It is what it is. Um, and that's really what it was. I mean, I sold like I would say I sold half of my stuff to get the trucks to SEMA, and then you know back home, and I'm like, all right, now what? Out of money. Got these trucks, sell some more stuff, get some more stuff popping. I Everything was just weird because it was right when the elections were like now it's decided. We just voted, and
Yeah.
everybody was just like in the holding their breath stage until Trump got in office. So it was just a weird few months. I mean, now I'm slowly going to work on them. I signed up the trucks for LST. They got approved, but they're literally they're not in bad condition. They're just not finished. Snickers, I'm actually working on more than I am Clyde. Clyde scares the hell out of me. I can't believe that's my truck. Like it blows my mind that that's my truck, and it's nuts. So like
Now that the green carbon fiber truck that was at SEMA, was it the same people that made the same body?
yes. So Brothers Composites is the company, and that's what they do. They actually manufacture just about anything that you see that's made in carbon fiber was made by them. So you've heard of Speedcore?
Yeah.
They're the guys that started Speedcore's carbon program, and they worked for Speedcore for years. And I'm not going to keep talking. But when they left Speedcore, they started their own thing. So like all of the classic recreation GT500 Mustangs, the Cobras, now the Gateway, or I don't remember which company, but it's doing the full Broncos carbon, all the carbon Camaros and Chargers and Challengers and Cudas and everything from like Savaggio design, Kevin Hart's carbon cars, all of those are made by these guys. And the guy that had the green one at SEMA, they are one of their big customers because they build a lot of like, um, you buy a new Challenger, Hellcat, and cut all the body parts off, and then they make carbon fiber parts to make it look like an old Cuda.
Gotcha.
So this guy,
Seen those.
his name is Danny. So he builds a lot of those, and he had a customer who wanted to do that truck, so they built it. But they built a lot
So
for some reason.
now I know you've recently started, I guess, building your own parts to sell. How did it come about that you were going to manufacture your own stuff?
So I've always enjoyed it. Like when I worked for that short period with Amani Forged, I got to really see how CNCs worked. And then when I worked for Forgiato, I mean, I was every day at the shop seeing all the CNCs going, and I really understood that. And, with anything, you want to figure out how to make money while you're doing stuff. And I never figured out how Ford Aero was going to make me money, but I feel like it's the marketing tool to promote something. So I have to make something that I could market. And I was like, there's nobody making these parts for us. I knew which parts I want for my trucks that nobody makes. I guess I need to make it. And knowing all the people that I know, like I don't myself own any CNCs, but I've got 50 friends that have CNCs, and I've got friends that do all these different things. And you lean on those friends, and then everybody makes money and everybody grows, and then we all get to eat together.
So what all parts are you currently producing?
So I have all different kinds of wheels. I've got a lot of different wheels. I've got interior parts. Like I made a dash bezel that like you could put a double din radio into a
Seen
bumper
that.
guide. I've got the cluster. I've got like a lot of random things. I did taillights. I'm coming out with like, there's a lot of parts that I don't have yet, like that I've, done R&D on, but just haven't physically made. Um, that's where I am right now. Like right now I'm just not in a stuck phase, but I just bootstrap everything myself, and building two SEMA trucks really drained the hell out of me. So now I'm like still selling more stuff so that way I could pump it into building more product.
Yeah. Well, what's the future hold for you and Ford Air?
So my future, I've got 4 kids, a wife. They're growing. My oldest is turning 5, and my youngest is 4 months old, and my wife wants like 12 kids. So that's
You're
gonna,
a braver man than I am.
yeah, that's gonna be fun.
I always say my one was too many.
Yeah, well, yep, they multiply quick. Um, as far as Ford Air, I mean, I don't see slowing down. I'm gonna start focusing on like making maybe more quality content instead of so much. I'm very into the put out a ton of content and maybe not necessarily make sure the quality is the best. Like quality of the content you're watching, not the production, is always what I focused on. But I think I'm going to start making like the production a little bit better. I'm also, it's funny because it kind of ties everything back in. There's like a 99% chance that I'm going to accept the job offer at Amani Forge, being their marketing director again. But they actually own 9 other companies also that are like cast wheel companies, and they're like a big competitor to like Wheel Pros or Hoonigan, whatever.
Yeah.
So he wants me. He's been like hitting me up for years because I quit in 20. I went back to work for him for a short period of time when I was doing the magazine stuff in 2020. Oh, that's how I survived, I guess, the beginning of COVID. Yeah, in 2020, I started working back at Amani Forged as their marketing director.
Yeah, I remember when you left.
Yeah, and then the when I basically like really believed more in Ford errors when I quit the job. But ever since I quit that job, the owner's been like up my butt, like, dude, you need to come back, you need to come back, you need to come back. And then after building these trucks for SEMA, I got a lot of realizations of like a lot of things. And one of the things that I realized is I need to I guess I need to like hunker down and focus more. So me and him spoke because I want him to help me manufacture my wheels. And he's like, all right, well, I'll help you, but you got to help me. So right now we're in negotiations, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to start working back with him doing that kind of stuff. Um, I don't think I'll ever not take pictures, but it'll probably still be more selective. Like now I do it for my friends. Um,
Yeah.
Chris did just hit me up to help him with OBS Builder's Guide, so I might be the editor for that this year. They're only doing one issue. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really a big Chevy guy, but I
So
don't.
tell everybody how they find you and follow everything you're doing.
So I am Solomon Lunger. You can find it. If you want to follow my personal Instagram, Facebook, it's under my name. Ford Era on YouTube, the Ford Era on Instagram. Each of my trucks, if you want to see them, you can go Instagram. They all have their own Instagram. So like Snickers F-150, Carbon Clyde, Gold Dust F-250, um, and yeah,
Well, sounds like you got your hands full there for sure. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and chat with me and my listeners and viewers and let them know where Solomon came from and where you're going.
absolutely. I appreciate the time, and thank you guys all for listening. Make sure like, subscribe, drop him a review, and we'll catch you guys later.
All right, man. See ya.